Welcome to Caleb Can't Read. I'm Jordan Rabel.
And I'm Caleb Terrence.
I've been waiting to tell you this for like a week and a half so that I could tell you about this and record your reaction to it. So okay. I'm chilling out with Serial Killer Dan in his garage, drinking beer and buzzballs, as we do. And he tells me about this attractive friend of his who's able to pull consistently like 9 and 10 chicks, right?
Okay.
But the thing is that a lot of these girls have not had to deal with consequences to their actions because they come from like rich families,
okay, or
they get away with shit because they're very beautiful. And so some of them, he says that like half of them are like pretty fucking cracked, right? Like just not mentally unwell.
Okay.
And so this one girl
I may say they may not be 9 and 10s then, Jordan.
On looks, okay, fair enough. You're right. The whole package goes into it. Okay, that's fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, their knees were funny. No, so like, he was with this one girl who didn't just have a domination kink.
Okay.
She had an Anne Frank kink.
Wow!
Now,
whoa, dude! I don't like this.
What this meant was essentially he had to play hide and seek with her before they did the deed.
And she called it an Anne Frank kink. Why didn't she just call it a hide and seek kink?
Because she said it was bonus points if he wore very tall boots, and she gave him an unloaded pistol to find her with. A real gun.
No, dude.
He still did it.
Dude.
And at that point, honestly, when you're slipping a weapon into my hands, I'm like, I don't think this is worth it. I don't, you know what? I'm going to leave.
There's a line.
There is. I was so excited to tell you that because that was the most wild shit I had heard.
Why the fuck would you just tell me that apart from the podcast? Why would you record that?
I wanted you to know it. Anyway.
What the fuck is why?
Well, hey, speaking of...
How did you think I would react?
About as well as you did. So, hey, speaking of people with wild urges.
Anti-Semitic coded hide and seek kinks? Like, what the...
Well, let's get started, shall we?
What the...
Do you want to elaborate on it?
Actually, you know what? I had questions, but like nothing, no answer you give me is going to make it more appropriate. So
I feel like when I had questions, Dan was just like, I'm not sure, and I soon moved on from it myself. Like, maybe it's better that we don't linger here.
Holy fuck, isn't
that the weirdest shit?
That's the worst fucking segue you've given. In how many episodes are we at now?
80 something.
Yeah. Congratulations, dude.
You're welcome.
You've really fucking outdone yourself.
I work hard on this. Well, from where we last left off, Lord Byron has been having continued success with his poetry, namely with his epic poem, Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, a fictional account of his time on the Mediterranean, which neglected to mention any of the children he'd molested while abroad. Byron had been quite busy at his home in England as well. Numerous rumors abound about him fucking his half-sister Augusta, which, honestly, I can't say that he didn't. But besides her was Lady Caroline, whom when Lord Byron tried to break off their affair, got upset and tried slitting her wrists in front of a whole crowd of people. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Lady Caroline would go on to introduce the world to the Byronic hero, which is basically just someone that walks and talks like Lord Byron. A douchebag, if you will. And while Lady Caroline intended her novel Glenarvan to be a scathing insult to Byron, everyone thought the book sucked and turned against her instead. Lord Byron would afterwards turn his attention to Anne Milbank, who in marriage would become our very own Lady Byron. And while their marriage was brief, their short time together did result in the birth of their only child, Ada Byron, who would have no memory of her father whatsoever, as both she and her mother left before she was even a few months old.
She went back to live with her family, right?
Yeah.
Because dude was all weird and banging his sister and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's, it's more than just infidelity or anything like that, or adultery or whatever. It's more like hey, you're fucking your sister. I want a divorce.
Like, that's a level of fucked up that I'm not working through this while you go to therapy. Like, no, I'm out. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
yeah, it's like, it's really nice to go with your partner through, whatever they're going through, depression or like PTSD, stuff like that they're really opening up with you on. But if they're like, I like fucking my sister, it's like, I feel like maybe Maybe it's time to call it quits.
I feel like the situation was more you keep walking in on him fucking his sister, and
nobody knows for sure.
And he's denying that he's fucking his sister.
There are so many historians that deny he fucks his sister, even though we have
most likely an incestuous gaslighter.
Yeah.
And she's got money, so she don't got to put up with this shit.
That's true. Yes.
Like, so she's out.
That's true. Actually, from all of his affairs and everything, he's not fucking poor people, really. So it's like, you know, you really can just walk away at any point. You don't have to stick with this dude.
You don't have to deal with it.
You don't have to do this. Well, with his newfound freedom, Lord Byron would flee to Lake Geneva with his doctor, John Polidori. However, Byron's publisher, John Murray, cornered Dr. Polidori before they left, giving him £500 and a request to keep a diary of their exploits. When Lord Byron and his crew arrived at the Villa Diodati on Lake Geneva, however, they were surprised to find Percy Shelley, his mistress Mary, and Mary's half-sister Claire Claremont, who was pregnant with Lord Byron's child.
Didn't they all, like, break into his house or something?
Yep, they broke in.
Oh, yeah,
and he was just like, oh, cool. And he just let them stay, I think, because it was mostly just like, well, what the fuck else have I got to do? I don't have Netflix yet, you know?
It's like, oh, I was really bored, though.
Yeah. I feel like that was the biggest problem back then, why there was so much fucking. You're just bored. There's not a whole lot else going on.
I mean, I feel like it's probably the same amount of fucking as now. It's just with less protection. So it's a bit more disastrous. A few more children, you know.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot,
quite a bit more.
Yeah. But by the end of the summer, no agreement could be reached on Byron's commitment as a father. Namely, he wasn't planning to be one. Remember, he already has Ada and another child that's been lost to history, one that he had with his fucking, one of his maids, and that we, like, found some record of all the way out in fucking 2010. No one knows what happened to them. This was never going to happen. So when the Shelleys and Claire left the Villa Diodati at the end of the summer, the 28-year-old Byron decided to flee further from his problems to Italy, this time with his faithful manservant, William Fletcher.
I was wondering when he was going to come up again, dude. Because I feel because I kind of thought about it, like, I feel like we just really dropped the ball a lot on trying to remember that there was indeed a...
Because he doesn't really have anything to say. He's just
like
a servant.
40 at this point.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And he's just hanging out. I mean, that's his job, though. It's just, I don't want to get up to get crackers. Can you please get them for me? Like, that's his story, you know?
This guy's bad with his money.
Well, it's just weird because he's essentially, if there was a movie, he'd be a character that's like an extra that's constantly in the background. And you're just like, what the fuck is up with that guy?
He gets crackers.
Yeah, that's pretty much the explanation. What does he do? He gets crackers.
It's like imagine having an Uber driver that waited just for you. Or an Uber Eats guy that waited just
that would dude, don't give me ideas. That sounds so good.
He's got a manservant, dude. Like
Byron dismissed.
He'll take no wives, father no children, and just take care of this fucking creepy little.
Sometimes he watches. What? Byron dismissed.
Well, yeah, it's like, you know, it's just like, well, I mean, look at him. It's not any different than like if your cat watches, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. It's kind of like having a cat in the background, except you don't really pet it or like, you know, play with it or anything. It's just like, that's my cat.
I don't let pets in the room. I don't like that. That does something.
Yeah, all you need is one cold nose touching your butt, and you're just like, I'm out. I'm done.
Like, well, also just like, there's no way it's like it doesn't affect their little. It's 2024, dude. We're getting weird. Like, they don't need to see that. Like,
I keep scratching at the door though. Like, what are you doing? Are you fighting?
You know,
like, no, let it watch.
Yeah, get it out of here, dude. Like.
I feel like that's a fair request. A part of me wants to say grow up, it's an animal. But another part of me is like, yeah, I don't like being watched either though.
I don't want your companion that loves you like family to see me doing that to you. I don't like I'm sorry.
No,
like,
I get it. It's fair.
I don't care if it's a cat or a dog.
What about lizards?
Put a blanket over it. Lizard's fine.
Let the snake in.
Lizard's fine. I'm gonna be really angry if it gets out of the cage at any point. But like, it's no, man. Like,
I don't know anywhere else where to go with that. I'm just gonna move on really. So Byron dismissed Dr. Polidori under mysterious circumstances where we're not really sure what the full story is, but they seem to leave with a bit of a hatred for each other. And honestly, we do have some accounts of them feuding while they were in Switzerland, so it was probably just that. Like, Dr. Polidori apparently once sprained his ankle, and Lord Byron made fun of him. So Dr. Polidori hit him in the face with a boat oar.
You know, it's yawn there, dude.
It's just shit like that, you know, just like bunk.
Just fucked him up.
And you know, that sounds comical, but it's like, you ever been rowing a boat? A boat? Oh shit, I'm Canadian now. Boat. Mm-hmm. Like old wooden oars, they're heavy.
Well, you ever had anybody hit you with a paddle?
Yeah, when they're like made of plastic and rubber, it still hurts.
Yeah,
I can't imagine a wooden one.
Yeah,
like,
like that is a Looney Tunes way to assault someone with a fucking dangerous weapon.
Yeah, they're always like, haha, cast iron pan, and it's like, no, that bitch is heavy. You use both hands when you're lifting it too. Like,
you fucking Samwise someone, that's a federal charge, dude. Like, don't. No, dude.
But it wasn't just Dr. Polidori's employment with Lord Byron suddenly ending that's mysterious. Byron's entire stay in Venice is shrouded in missing details, and yet it's where he'd be living for the next 3 years of his life. From what we do know, Lord Byron first stayed with a couple named the Sagatis, with whom, of course, he fell in love with the wife. But their affair was short-lived, as Byron found his own place, renting a wing of the Palazzo Mocenigo, where Lord Byron was accompanied by 14 servants, 2 mastiffs, a fox, and 2 monkeys. I want to see that play out.
Did we get like weird diseases from the monkeys?
I feel like he should have.
Because I feel like that happens. What kind of monkey, man?
That's a good question. I think that people back then were probably just saying monkeys.
Back then they were just like monkey. Like,
yeah, exactly.
They weren't, like, are we talking capuchin? Are we talking...
I wondered the same thing, because honestly, if he's got a couple of orangutans or something, that'd be sick. Which, granted, I know apes,
dumbass.
But people making the record back then, if they're not saying if they're capuchin or not, which honestly, we all want to know, are they capuchins? Because those things are cute.
I think that's the only monkey I can name off the top of my head.
I know, because they're cool. They're cute.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. Like,
let's go ahead and go with them little box grinding monkeys.
Awesome.
Yeah. You know.
Little
like,
Abu's. Yeah. But don't worry.
What the fuck was Abu?
You know what? We're bringing the term monkey into a movie based in the Middle East, and I don't want to go down this path. Let's move on.
No, it's a literal monkey, Jordan.
I know.
There's no...
I know.
No.
Let's keep
There's
going.
There's not anything deeper in this one. It's the character is literally... Oh, the little hat.
He's got a little hat. He's got a little vest. But don't worry, because Byron would find companionship in yet another married woman, the 23-year-old Margherita Cognia. Now, Margherita could not read or write, but she was hot, and that's what really matters here. And because...
I'm glad most women think the same.
You're going to do fine. And because that was his only requirement in a relationship, it meant that Byron and Margarita fought all the fucking time. But their relationship edged on, and Margarita would end up leaving her baker husband to stay with Byron, but not by his request. Quote, "The chaste wife of a baker, having quarreled with her tyrannical husband, has run away to me, God knows without being invited, and resists all the tears and penitence and beg pardons of her disconsolate lord, and the threats of the police and the priest of the parish besides, and swears she won't give up her unlawful love, myself, for anybody or anything. I assure you, I have begged her in all possible ways, too, to go back to her husband, promising her all kinds of eternal fidelity into the bargain." But Lord Byron goes on, saying that she terrifies both himself and his loyal servant Fletcher. Quote, "She only flies into a fury, and as she is a very tall and formidable girl of 23, with the large black eyes and handsome...
20? What the fuck
she's
is that?
23 years old.
Oh.
With the large... she's fucking tall. No.
Like, Jesus.
With the large black eyes and handsome face of a pretty fiend, a correspondent figure, and a carriage as haughty as a princess, with the violent passions and capacities for mischief of an Italian when they are roused. I am a little embarrassed with my unexpected acquisition. However, she keeps my household in rare order, and has already frightened the learned Fletcher out of his remnants of wits more than once.
This chick sounds wild as hell.
We have turned her into a housekeeper. So while Byron finds her stupid and frightening, he can at least get her to clean a little. So he keeps her.
Okay. I don't know. Fuck.
Mm-hmm. Now, while Lord Byron was doing his best to be a humble man in Venice.
Just taming this ogress.
Yeah, it really makes her kind of sound like Shrek's wife, you know?
It's kind of like, yeah, it's really fucked up. But
it is, yes. Well, I'll keep her around because she can kill both me and Fletcher.
This is just some poor baker's wife.
It is.
That's now just like cleaning this rich guy's house.
She's uneducated too, and he's just like, you can stay around as long as you can clean. Like, he just added another servant.
Dude, somebody's gonna kill him.
He's collecting people like Pokemon.
Somebody's gonna fucking kill this man. He's not dying of natural causes. There's no fucking, like, he's gonna fuck with the wrong one. Yeah, he's gonna fuck a baker's wife, and then the baker's gonna go to the doctor and find out he only has 6 months to live, and he's gonna be like, oh.
Yeah, here's the thing. Don't just imagine an Italian baker in your head, which is already kind of frightening. I want you to imagine a 19th century Italian baker. He can kill you.
Like, Italian bakers are frightening.
Yeah, imagine it in your head, and are you not thinking of something out of a Disney cartoon where they got thick fucking arms?
Actually, Adult Swim. I'm just thinking about Carl.
Now, while Lord Byron was doing his best to be a humble man in Venice, Claire Claremont was living with her sister and her brother-in-law in Bath, England. Claire never stopped writing Byron, begging him to help take care of his child, yet he never responded. The only time he did was when Claire told him she planned to name their daughter Alba. And Alba is a type of poem written about lovers who pass in the night and must keep their love a secret. Isn't that cute? Do you get it? It's kind of like them. Like it's like us, you know? It's like, oh, we got to keep our love a secret. I'm naming her Alba. I'm naming her secret, you know?
Oh, man, that's like, we're a couple little stretches away from like Hope or something. It's
kind
of corny.
Oh man, when you get a disabled child and you name it Charity, yeah, no, I know what you mean. Well, Lord Byron broke his months
punching
of silence.
Down on people with disabled kids over here at Caleb Can't Read. That was Jordan Rabel, everybody.
Well, Lord Byron broke his months of silence with Claire just to tell her that the name sucked and to call her Allegra instead. And so it was on January 12th, 1817, that Allegra Byron would be born. I do like that, though. Just going to break my silence, like, remember something cool like Cigarette. Like, remember Cigarette Byron. That'd be
Margaret.
However, back at home.
Camel Crush Byron.
Camel Crush Byron. That's a good one. Yeah, you've already got the middle name and everything. Back at home, the love between Byron and Margarita just couldn't last. After frequent nights where Lord Byron was forced to sleep in his gondola outside out of either anger or fear, he finally demanded that Margarita leave his house for good. He couldn't just crash on the couch. He had to basically sleep in the car.
Yeah, dude, that energy fills up the whole space. It's not good.
I remember talking to my grandmother. She'd be like, yeah, every time your grandpa got pissed, he said that like he was drunk and he'd be like, I'm fucking going out for a drive, because you're allowed to just drive drunk in Wisconsin. And every morning she'd find the car parked in the driveway and him not in bed, and then she'd walk out there and he never left the driveway. He just in the fucking driver's seat.
Mm-hmm. Although I am astounded this man didn't just like tell her to leave.
Well, so he did, and when she did, she threw herself into the Venice canals.
Oh.
But it wasn't long. I don't know if she lived. I'm sure she did. Otherwise that would get mentioned. Like, yeah, she couldn't read and write, but that backstroke was good. Like, but it wasn't long before Byron would move on yet again, as evidenced in this letter from his ex-wife's mom, who was obviously keeping tabs on the guy herself. In a letter to her daughter, the Lady Byron, she said, quote, "The only new particular is that he has quarreled with and dismissed the married lady and supplied her place by a girl of 16. Whether this was a rumor or not, honestly can't be sure with this guy. I'm not sure who this 16-year-old may be, but we do know that his next love interest was with the 21-year-old Teresa Guiccioli. Teresa Guiccioli, otherwise known as the Contessa Guiccioli, first met the illustrious Lord Byron at a mutual friend's place, 3 days after Teresa had married a man 50 years her senior. He was one of the most powerful men in Italy at the time, having helped Byron's hero, Napoleon, during his conquest of Europe, and Teresa was his third wife at this point. Her husband had that true wealth, not the kind that lets you just dodge taxes and shit, but the kind that lets you get away with murder. In 1816, just a couple years before Teresa would meet Lord Byron, there was a guy who tried suing Count Guiccioli, saying that he acquired all his land illegally, through the spoils of war when he was still backing Napoleon. Well, that was true.
What the fuck are you gonna do about it?
But
Sounds
Count,
like yeah, that's true, but
yeah, true.
but what are you about to try to do about that?
Oh, wow.
Like,
Boy, he should run for president. But Count Guiccioli didn't really like the way this guy said it, so that guy ended up dead. Not like mysteriously dead. He was definitely murdered. But it seems that no one could link his murder to the Count. Or if they could, no one wanted to say that they could. Basically, going after this guy's wife may have seemed like a bad idea, but when she mailed Lord Byron clippings of her pubic hair, how could he say no?
what? Was that a thing back then?
I guess so.
Is that
Do we still have it on display? I
don't
would
know, is
actually
that-
love to see it.
like back in the day? Was that like the equivalent for women getting flowers for dudes?
I hate
like
to
you just
say
give
it.
me like a bouquet of pubes.
I don't remember where I read it before, but he's not the only dude that I've read about that happening to. Which I don't know.
fuck,
It's like
man?
it's like getting a clam pick, I guess. Like, just here you go. What are you supposed to do with it? Sniff it?
Like
Eat
what?
it?
Just cherish it.
I
guess.
Dude, put it in a locket.
Just a little,
You're gonna be like Helga Pataki making fucking Hey Arnold.
just a little coke.
Just getting all their used gum and shit, putting pubes in it.
Fucking little coke baggie of pubes. Like what the fuck? What the shit?
Just lick the bag. So, while he took time to produce new works of poetry in Venice, Lord Byron also, for some reason, got really hung up on Armenian culture. Knowing that they're adjacent to Turkey and his love of the Mediterranean, I'm guessing Lord Byron just thought it was neat to know a small group of people. But either way, he quickly picked up on the Armenian language, and thereafter helped produce an English to Armenian dictionary in 1817. A couple years later, he'd even author a book that translated classical Armenian to modern-day Armenian. So he wasn't just learning curse words this time, he was an actual master of the language itself, which is impressive. And when he produced a second Armenian dictionary in 1821, Byron would write out a history of the Armenian people's oppression by the Turkish government within the preface. He was slowly getting more into the idea of revolutions. What's that guy's name? Serge Tarkanan? What's his name?
The System of a Down, dude.
Yeah, what's his name?
I don't know how to
Well,
say
he was
the last name.
I don't either. Serge is the only thing. Now, if you'll recall back to our very first episode on Jacques Casanova, you may recall that the dude was actually a native to Venice. Don't worry, he was dead by the time Lord Byron was only 10 years old. God, can you imagine the shit they'd get up to? But no, I ask you to recall when Casanova escaped from prison while he was still in Venice. Do you remember that? He was in the Leads.
Yeah. He
Yeah,
escaped. He beat the
with
shit out of a dude with a
Father
cane.
Balby, yeah.
Wait, was he in there because he beat the shit out of a dude with a cane, or did he?
No,
beat
this was a separate
Did
incident.
he beat the dude on the way out?
No, that was a completely separate incident.
It's
I feel
been
like
a fucking
yeah,
while.
It's been a while. It's been like 4 years.
4 years. All the
Yeah.
alcohol I've drank is just kind of sloshed that around together in there. Like,
Did he make novels? No,
This is-
Caleb. No.
what is it? Why do I say that still? What the fuck is that? Like,
Back when the city was first getting its feet out of the water, the original jail only had something like 7 cells to it. But over time, there was an actual prison built across the canal from this building and a bridge connecting the two. The building that had the jail cells that held Casanova and his friend, the renegade priest Father Balby, was called the Leads because of the lead rooftop. But when a prisoner was being transferred from the temporary cells in the Leads over to the more formal prison, they had to pass over this bridge with a covered roof and these narrow little windows with openings too small to pass through. It's said that this was the last view prisoners would have of their beautiful city before being forever locked away. And it's because of this that it is known worldwide as the Bridge of Sighs. Anyway, Lord Byron is the one who came up with that name. That's it. Thought it was neat.
Alright.
Famous bridge. He did that.
also, fuck you for never doing an episode on renegade priest Father Balby.
I have
for
looked
the second
on
time,
more
dude, 'cause
than
that
one
shit
occasion.
Is,
I am so curious
my
about.
God.
That's the only record of this guy. I mean, he had to have changed his name probably, but it's like there's got to be something out there. How do you become a Why would you describe him as a renegade priest? Like, that's the thing, too.
How are you a renegade? Like, what does that
Right.
even mean? Like,
Well, was he just a Lutheran? Like,
what's happening here? What did
I don't
mans
know.
do? Why is he in the
tried.
Reds? Like,
I really did try so many times, more than I've researched anything else. I'm like, what is up with Father Balby? Because not only that, because in Jacques Casanova's little fucking book, he's also like, yeah, he was a hard ass too. Like, he was a fucking man of steel. Like, he just beat the shit out of you, and it's like, what is up with this guy? Nothing. There's nothing out there.
No mention past his interaction with Casanova and the Leds.
That's it.
Okay.
And
Anyway,
I know I have to stop pulling on that thread because I keep trying. Like, once a year, I'm just like, but what if I didn't look hard enough? And I did. Everybody did. There's no information. That's it. It sucks.
Okay. Well, sorry to take us off track there with Father Bulby again.
We'll get there again in another year. So anyway, it's 1819. 3 years after Dr. John Polidori had left Lord Byron's employment, when he was approached by Byron's old publisher, John Murray. Remember, Murray had given Polidori a £500 paycheck to keep a diary on where, what, and who Lord Byron did after he'd fled England. Well, Polidori never wrote anything down, or if he did, he at least tossed the pages. Instead, for the last 3 years, Polidori had been working on a story called The Vampire, stemming from Byron's abandoned story from back at the Villa Diodati. So, of course, when John Murray hears about this, he's pissed. But for whatever reason, Polidori thought it was cool between them. Just, hey, sorry I spent that $500 and got nothing to show for it. Hey, you want to see the first draft of my story? So Dr. Polidori sends it over, telling John Murray that it came from one of Lord Byron's ideas, and John Murray immediately publishes this draft in the New Monthly Magazine on April 1st, 1819, under the title The Vampire, a Tale by Lord Byron. Which I'm not...
To try to get the money back.
Yeah, and I'm not totally against John Murray on this. It's scummy, yes, but dude was pissed about that $500. I would be.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot. Then
it is.
Let's just. Like, I don't fuck.
It's shitty.
We're not gonna stop and Google it. Let's just say it's 5,000. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. 500 is a lot now. Like, I'd be mad.
Like, dude, $50. I'd be like, come on, dude.
Yeah, right.
Like.
So anyway, The Vampire is about a man named Aubrey.
Hey man, you've been chronicling my adventures? No.
I forgot to... Oh, was that 3 years ago?
Dude, what have you been writing?
Why do you hold grudges, dude?
So there's these...
Why can't you just
let it go? There's these sick things called vampires, and, like, I've just been using the time to... You know, I have a hard time, like, doing something if I'm not, like, really, like, interested. You know what I mean? Like, it just... like...
Why can't you just let it go, dude? Just let it go.
There's only, like, so many times I can watch you bang somebody's wife.
It was 3 years ago, dude. Like 3 years ago. Let it go.
So I'll publish it in your name. How about that? And we'll be good if you forget about the 500.
So The Vampire is about a man named Aubrey who gets caught up in the exploits of a mysterious man named Lord Ruthven, whom Aubrey finds out later is seducing young women everywhere and even ends up killing a Greek girl named Ianthe. If you'll remember, that was the codename Lord Byron gave one of the children he molested in a poem he wrote. So yeah, the reason vampires are always rich, suave womanizers is thanks to Polidori making Lord Byron his villain. In fact, the name Lord Ruthven was lifted from the book Glenarvan by Caroline Lamb, the novel that does its best to bash Byron as well. That's why vampires are always rich. They're always like that. It's just Lord Byron. Now, originally, Polidori had wanted the book published anonymously, but having it falsely attributed to Lord Byron really pissed him the fuck off. When The Vampire was finally published in novel format a month later, publishers Sherwood, Neely, and Jones once again put Lord Byron's name on the front page. But once Polidori made a complaint, they removed Byron's name from all subsequent editions. However, because Polidori wanted it published anonymously in the first place, it meant that if anyone asked who wrote the book, it was always attributed to Lord Byron. So that dude's never getting his fame. Regardless, The Vampire by Dr. John Polidori was an immense success when it first came out, partly because people thought Lord Byron had written it, and partly because people were all of a sudden abuzz for horror novels, thanks to a story that had come out the year previously called Frankenstein. But Polidori's novel would lay the groundwork for all subsequent vampire stories that came after it. Hell, the author of The Count of Monte Cristo, Alexandre Dumas, made references to Lord Ruthven on multiple occasions in his work. There's even a Lord Ruthven Award that goes out to the best writers of vampire literature today. I am really curious what is on that list. It feels like it's mostly horny.
Oh,
you know?
well, I mean, the vampire thing is always horny.
Look, I'm not going to say Twilight is just the
horny and fruity, dude. Horny and fruity.
It's Twilight's fault. That's all I'm saying.
Like at the very least, aggressively bisexual. Mm-hmm. You know, like they're
like, I know that Interview with the Vampire movie is what like made this got that ball rolling in the first place. But come on, Twilight fucked it up for everyone. I mean, it's just the way it goes.
I mean, yeah, but like Interview with the Vampire, like, would you? That was that fucking Tom Cruise vampire?
I think so, yeah.
Tom Cruise and who the fuck's the other one?
Fuck, was it Val Kilmer?
Was that fucking Brad Pitt?
Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't watch it because I knew it was like.
You never watched Interview with the Vampire?
No.
It's not a bad movie.
I don't care though.
I mean, are they like?
That's all it comes down to.
Are they like fruity vampire? Don't give me that shit, you lazy bitch. But like, it's a fuck. It's a classic.
Is it okay? So it's good. I don't know.
I'm not gonna. Would you accept that answer from me about any movie or any piece of media? Like, I don't care. Like,
I don't like Tom Cruise movies generally.
Well, yeah, of course not.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, he just happens to be in it sometimes. Like,
I don't know.
You know,
it's hard
like
for me.
Mel
to watch
Gibson
Tom
happens
Cruise
to
movies.
be in Mad Max. It doesn't stop us.
I'm not really sure what Lord Byron thought about the story, if anything at all, because things were getting a little busier for him at home, as it was around this time that little Allegra would come back into his life, very much against his will. While Claire Claremont baptized the baby under Byron's last name, he tried to convince her to write it as Byron on the birth certificate so no one would know Allegra was his. But of course she didn't do that. Claire was still very much in love with Lord Byron for some reason, though admittedly quite sick of all his shit. So Allegra had been making more frequent visits to her father in the last few years while he was still living in Venice. He described his own 2.5-year-old daughter as, quote, very droll. Can you imagine that? Dad, what do you think of me? You're boring.
This kid doesn't even do anything. Like,
it doesn't backflip or nothing.
Like, what is she just eating boogers, man? Jesus Christ, teach her something. Like,
little cigarette, stop that. Like, she was also showing the old Byron temper, becoming quite the hellion to his servants.
Please, okay, listen. Old school glass 40. You've got to get some kind of hobby or something.
But these visits were needed for Claire, and especially the Shelleys with whom she lived, as rumors were starting to spread that Percy Shelley was the father to both his own child through Mary, as well as Claire's. So Byron, sick of his constant interactions with Claire, agreed to take Allegra one last time, because this time, as both he and Claire agreed, she would be staying with Byron forever. No more contact with her mother whatsoever.
Why?
He's sick of her.
No.
He's sick of her. That's really it. He sees both of them as an annoyance, and he's like, well, at least a child I can, I don't know, lock in a room and tell it that I command all the ghosts in the manor.
Yeah, this is not going to be good.
No doubt Claire agreed to this because she knew her living conditions with her sister and her husband weren't going to last. And at the end of the day, Claire was nothing more than a failed actress. Lord Byron, on the other hand, could spend lavishly on their child. In theory. Well, what happened instead is that as soon as Claire dropped off Allegra and couldn't be seen over the horizon, Byron immediately handed off his daughter to a British diplomat and his wife named the Belgraves. Sadly, Mr. and Mrs. Belgrave didn't really care for Allegra either. Thought she was a brat. So they gave her away to a second family.
Jesus, they're just fucking hot potatoing this kid?
And this kept happening. 3 different families in 3 months, with no real indication that Byron knew at any given point where Allegra was.
Dude, this kid must have been boring as shit.
Right? It's like, this is kind of your fault. Like,
I mean, that's fucked up. You just spend like an hour with her, like, all right, yeah, no, I get it.
Take her back to the pound. Once, Byron asked someone to check up on Allegra's living conditions. Wouldn't go himself, just, sent someone, probably Fletcher. Mm-hmm. Well, they discovered Allegra had been living alone for God knows how long, as the family that was supposed to be caring for her just one day up and left. And the nursemaid they left her with eventually did the same thing and just didn't tell anybody.
Wait, where's Allegra? Who?
I gotta say, I know this is really sad, but there's no way this kid is striking out this much if she's well behaved. You know,
Like no smoke without fire. Like come on, man. That's our stance here.
Now, until we next come back to little Allegra Byron, I just want you to keep in the back of your mind that she's getting sent out to different families over the course of the next 3 to 4 years. And every time she's given up by her would-be adoptive family, she gets sent back to the Belgraves. Not her father, the Belgraves. And every time they see her, she seems to be getting more gaunt and more quiet every time.
Yeah, no shit.
Oh, but Caleb, don't worry. Byron says he's actually keeping an eye on Allegra this entire time, just from a distance. It's what he tells everyone in letters. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. And it seems that...
Oh, she's around.
She's fine, yeah. This feels like fucking Casey Anthony.
Yeah.
When her kid went missing, she was just like, she's with the nanny. And they were like, we haven't seen your daughter in months. And she's like, fine, the nanny kidnapped her. And she won't give her back. And she was just trying to like have everyone think that was cool. And then they found out that she accidentally killed her kid and then buried her out in the woods. And
Jesus.
this is a very long story for me to have to actually just kind of coast over if you don't know who Casey Anthony was.
I sure don't, man.
She was in a Florida Hot Moms contest. I'll just say that much. Anyway.
Wait, they have those?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
Florida.
No, drop that. Let's talk about this. I got family down there. I got a place to stay. What's going? Oh, wait. Yeah, no single moms. All right.
Well, she's not anymore. So anyway. And it seems that for a little bit, Byron thought himself too harsh towards Claire and was actually planning on letting her visit their kid. But when he sees for himself just how bad Allegra is looking, he instantly reneges on his promise to Claire. He's afraid of what she might see, but he's also not one to admit when he's wrong, you know? So it's been a year now that Lord Byron has been fucking with the Contessa Teresa Guiccioli, right? the wife of that really powerful guy that can get you killed. And Lord Byron seems to feel the heat of her murderous husband coming down on him. We're not entirely sure why he was getting spooked all of a sudden after being so goddamn brazen for an entire year, but I did see an article recently about more of the letters between him and Teresa coming to light soon, so maybe we'll finally know after 200 years why he was getting so jumpy. Either way, Lord Byron is looking to run away with Teresa as far as either Venezuela or the Cape of Good Hope in Africa. But strangely, he instead opts for Ravenna, which is less than 100 miles away.
Dude, if this guy has, like, the kind of money you were talking about where he can just, like, he's just killing people and they know, and everybody knows who it is and it doesn't fucking matter because he's, like, that fucking powerful, do you really think that moving somewhere is gonna...
Well, I think for back in the day, it's at least a pain in the ass where it's like, if he moves as far as the tip of Africa or Venezuela, it's like, maybe he's okay.
Dude, it's not even like an issue of whether or not he actually cares about his wife. Like, status-wise, if people know he lets that fucking slip off,
yeah, true.
Dude, he's gonna fucking...
But that's what I'm most curious about in the story is, what the fuck happened to make him go, well, neither of us are safe. Like we need to go an entire world away. Like, that's insane.
You're fucked still.
Now, there is some evidence to suggest that Teresa's husband, Count Guiccioli, was actually receiving... I know, look, it's Italian.
It's a goofy fucking culture, man.
We will.
Like,
I know.
Like, that's... Come on, man.
So her husband, Count Waluigi, was actually receiving That's
something I respect.
A monthly allowance from Lord Byron for a period of about 4 years. It's just my theory, but something tells me that if this guy was as scary as everyone said, that maybe there's evidence to suggest that he found out about Teresa's affair and that Lord Byron got jumpy and wanted to run away as far as possible. But maybe the Count got a hold of him first and allowed him to run as far as Ravenna. I mean, it's less than 100 miles away. Really not that far. So long as Byron kept paying him some undisclosed sum.
Ooh.
So that's my theory on it.
Ooh, dude.
It's just a theory. A book theory! No, sorry, I'm not doing the Matt Pat thing. Anyway, so...
Yeah, that's just God damn, dude. Like, how many people's wives did he have to fuck until there were actually consequences?
Yeah, true.
We'll never know. Like, I mean,
they were causing harm to themselves, but he's like, just like, it has no consequence on me.
Honestly, it's just like, damn, I'm surprised nobody's fucking killed you yet. You just got a bill. That's not bad. Like really, like.
I wonder how much it was. If it was like breaking the bank on him or something. Like, I don't know.
Like, that's some like, fuck it, I'll kill this guy shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
true. That's
pretty
true.
bad.
Like, you're just paying like car rent. You're just like, all right. Well.
It's just like, oh, I got another car payment. Like, that's damn.
I mean, you'd also be murking like a celebrity, I guess.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I feel like the other guy that the Count killed was like a politician or something. Like, that has much more far-reaching consequences than just this guy. So I don't know. But either way, and I'm just going to add, to this sudden move to Ravenna. In 1869, when Teresa was around 69 years old, she would actually write a memoir called My Recollections of Lord Byron and Those of Eyewitnesses of His Life. But when I tried finding a reason as to why they might have fled Venice so suddenly, all this chick rambled on about was how Lord Byron was actually a good Christian man and everyone has him wrong, which I find funny.
That's fucking super weird. And
that's all that she would mention about it. Like, oh, yeah, we ran. Okay, yeah, we ran away to Ravenna. But you know what? He's a good man. That's all that she said about it. And it was like, why though? Hey, why?
Why you're running? Why are you running?
And, to call him a good Christian man, I find that funny, considering that both he and Percy Shelley were part of what was considered the Satanic school of poetry. This all began with a contemporary poet by the name of Robert Southey, who would go on to coin the term in a blatant attack against people he thought were making poetry look bad. In 1829 in particular, Southey wrote a poem called A Vision of Judgment, about King George III, who had died the year before, entering the gates of heaven. Robert Southey was extremely conservative, as you might be able to tell from his love of the monarchy, but this poem had a preface which bashed writers like Shelley and Byron, who were, quote, men of diseased hearts and depraved imaginations.
Well, yeah.
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 Like, fair. Well,
it's a very long-winded and poetic way to say piece of shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like,
I don't like him. Well, a year later...
I don't like him, and he earned that.
Yeah. Well, a year later, Lord Byron would write his own poem in response to A Vision of Judgment called The Vision of Judgment. The story is about how when King George III got to heaven, the angels and demons couldn't figure out where to place him. So the angels bring in Robert Southey to speak on his behalf, to which Southey starts reading a bit from his poem, A Vision of Judgment. Well, he doesn't get more than a few lines in before angels and demons alike run off in disgust, and St. Peter violently shoves Southey off a cloud and back down to earth into a lake. But that's okay, because when he hits the water, he miraculously doesn't die, because according to Lord Byron, quote, he first sank to the bottom, like his works, but soon rose to the surface like himself, for all corrupted things are buoyed like corks. To me, it sounds like he's saying, hey, shit floats. I'm pretty sure that's what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of reviewers that thought Byron's poem was in bad taste. Hell, the publisher got fined $100. But the more intellectual crowds fucking loved it, partly because everyone was sick of Robert Southey and his career just never recovered. And just putting it out there, Southey was not the only poet against Byron. There was another guy named William Wordsworth, whom Byron would refer to in letters as Turdsworth.
That's a good one. Yeah. I'm happy with it. That just rolls off.
Turdsworth.
It's got a nice
Shut
little...
up, no.
Just know my name. Stop.
Look, everyone, he pulled his pants down to poop. No, I didn't.
So he didn't pull him down to poop. Look at him. Look at that roll out the leg.
Fucking cornback rattler. No.
Wait, that's a good one, by the way. Is that? I don't know.
I didn't make it. It's
I know
an
it-
internet thing, but God, it's good.
I know it's not common though, so I love when
I
you
know.
bust it out.
Yeah.
It's a nice one. Like,
I really haven't found a better term for poop. So anyway,
sorry.
while Lord Byron and Teresa were living in Ravenna, he worked on perhaps his most influential work, Don Juan. The story is actually based on that of Spanish folklore, where Don Juan is the name of a man who evilly seduces women. But in Byron's story, it's the women who are evil, and Don Juan is just a sad and weak man.
No,
Oh,
please stop.
I wonder.
I'm
who
a virgin.
just a long cocked virgin. Oh no. Yeah, I wonder who this is about.
I prefer to fantasize about this dynamic. That's all that is. Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot of dynamics if you read through it. It's like, oh, this is just porn. Well, apparently, within the story of Don Juan is a line referring to Lady Caroline, the lady who slashed her wrists at a party because Lord Byron made her so upset.
Let's also remind everybody real quick that it wasn't like that woman did not kill herself at a party.
No.
It was a
everyone made it seem like everyone who saw it was like, oh no, oh
okay.
This is an act.
Okay, look, yeah, it's not good you're doing that, but you're not like doing it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you're
I
not
know.
like
I don't really. I'm uncomfortable with this line of.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not really trying.
You're not like
you're not like.
you're like, what do you mean, dude? She's like hurting herself. Yeah, but she's not like doing it.
Oh man, you can't go across the street. You gotta go down the road. You know.
Like
You're
I'm just
doing it wrong.
look, dude.
Like-
Just okay. No, fuck you. No, look over there and tell me if you think differently. Okay. Yeah, no, I get it. All right. Yeah, I mean, you're like, yeah, put a bandage on it, but like, he's not gonna.
He's still a dick. I mean,
Like,
just,
yeah, fuck
come
him,
on.
but, like,
you know, like Well, apparently within the story of Don Juan, there's this line that says, quote, "Some play the devil and then write a novel," which is, of course, referring to her book, Glenarvan. Well, Lady Caroline picked up on this diss. So that same year in 1819, she writes a poem in the style of Lord Byron's Childe Harold's Pilgrimage, calling it a new canto. In it, the main character claims to be a boring old fraud, and he's tired of all the fame he knows he doesn't deserve. Yeah, Lord Byron never mentioned a new canto, but I'm sure he read it, and reviewers, just like with Lady Caroline's novel Glenarvan, thought the poem sucked, and her reputation sank even further. And by the way, Lord Byron dedicated Don Juan to Robert Southey. Specifically, Byron has a line in the introduction which says that Southey has, quote, "for a lack of moisture quite a dry," which is saying Robert can't make women wet.
Ooh. This is a much more serious problem in a time without lube, my friend.
So Don Juan was, and continues to be, a huge success. It's written about in the same vein by authors past and present, as if it was Shakespeare. And for Lord Byron, this is going to be the height of his career. But out of these 17 chapters that will make up the story in Don Juan, or Donnie Johnny, as Byron liked to stupidly call it, only the first 5 had been written by 1821, when he and Teresa headed for Pisa. Now, it was around this time that Claire Clairmont is once again asking, where the fuck is Allegra? Granted, she agreed to not contact her, but that was 4 years ago, and she's been hearing rumors. Recently, she'd heard that Allegra had come down with malaria, and you have to remember, back then, people thought certain illnesses were stronger or weaker depending on the climate, and malaria was one of the hot ones. Like, you needed to go somewhere cold to kill off the virus. So when Claire heard that Lord Byron had relocated Allegra to Ravenna, which is apparently hot as shit, she flipped out on him. And honestly, as much as Percy Shelley was super good friends with Byron, he thought the old boy was starting to slip. Like, look, man, I know people were thinking I was fathering all these kids between these 2 sisters, and that was kind of embarrassing, but, like, maybe your kid would be better off just staying with us, you know? But Byron adamantly refused to allow Allegra to go back to the Shelleys. Why? Because Percy was an atheist and a vegetarian.
Okay. I mean, that's...
Byron thought a
At least she
vegetarian...
gets cheese, man. Calm down. Like, come on. It's like...
Well, Byron thought a vegetarian diet wouldn't be healthy for Allegra, which I kind of get. I mean, she is sick all the time, so maybe she needs a little fucking protein.
Man,
I don't know.
fuck Lord Byron, dude. You know what your daughter needs? Even if it's vegetarian food, she just needs some like food.
Yeah,
If she's getting more
somebody
gaunt
needs
and
to
more
feed her.
quiet. Like, no.
Somebody needs to feed her.
A head of
something.
fucking broccoli a day is better than whatever the fuck is currently happening.
Yeah,
Like,
and I was a little taken aback that Lord Byron, of all people, would be hateful towards someone who's an atheist. Like, not even like a Satanist or something. He's just like, like, fucking, are you kidding me? Like,
god damn, dude. This kid's gonna be fucked up.
oh, just you wait. But that wasn't all. Lord Byron's biggest gripe was the amount of dead kids between Percy and Mary. If you'll remember, Mary Shelley had a number of miscarriages and at least a couple kids that died when they were only a few years old. Not only that, but do you remember in particular Elena Adelaide Shelley? She was the one that mysteriously came into the Shelley household while they were in Naples, and then they left the next fucking day. Do you remember that?
No.
Basically, they were on the run from creditors, Mary and Percy Shelley, and she had just had a kid die. And Percy showed up with a child, and they found the records of, like, the baptism for this child, where they gave the wrong names on purpose, like spelled wrong and shit, to, like, on the documents. And then they had an argument, and they fucking left without that kid. So more than likely, Percy just grabbed a kid off the street and was like, look, here, look, what? Like,
Percy, that kid's 5.
yeah, no, they snatched a fucking street urchin and
then just scampered off.
Yeah, she convinced him, like, dude, this was a bad what are you doing? We're trying to keep a low profile. You just stole a kid, and then they fucking ran away without that kid. Well, the rumors about that kid were already out, and Byron thought Elena was the product between Percy and Claire, which honestly, that kind of hurt Byron. He doesn't give a shit about Claire, but he's like, you had sloppy seconds with the girl I don't give a shit about? Dude, that's not cool. Like, he was hurt of that. Like, why? But more than
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
It's not
Well,
complicated.
yes. Do you think it was like an ownership thing for women with him? I almost feel like it was. Like, you know, like it's, I don't know. I mean, honestly,
what would a piece of shit think, Jordan?
I don't know. Would it matter?
No.
Like, he's still a piece of shit. I don't know. But more than Allegra's own father, it was Percy Shelley that was actually keeping an eye on her. It was August 1821 when Percy saw Allegra at the Capuchin convent of St. Giovanni in the town of Bagnacavallo.
God damn it.
Bagnacavallo.
Why are you saying like Borat?
Bagnacavallo. Which is a little outside Ravenna, kind of like a suburb. So she was close to her father, at least. Not like he cared. Well, the little hellion looked like she had turned a new leaf. Allegra was kind and polite, not least of which Percy imagined was from the beatings the nuns were turning out.
Dude, how? Okay, this is fucking. How the fuck does a 2-year-old not act right? Like, I know she's not 2 now. Like, she's older,
Right.
like 3-4 years older or something.
4, I think.
Yeah, like 4 years older.
5.
So that makes. Come on, help me out. Is that 6?
What?
4 plus 2. 4 plus 2 is 6.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's 6 now, but like, how the fuck do you look at a 2-year-old
At a
fucking
child
kid and
and
determine
just-
it's dull? How the fuck can a 2-year-old all their personalities are abrasive to you?
You know what?
That's what 2-year-olds do.
Now that I think about it, his dad did the exact same shit. His dad had him for a single night, and he was like, I'm abandoning you and your mother, and then he left. He did the exact same shit.
Bro, just say you don't like kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I mean, he didn't want it in the first place.
Yeah, I know, but like, it's just, goddamn, dude, that's so.
It's so shitty. I don't
like
I think
kids, but I'm not like, hey, every kid I've met is a piece of shit. It's not just that I don't like kids. You know what I mean?
I think
like,
that he wanted to do that thing where, like, I mean, the first name that comes to mind is Elon Musk, but it's like basically what rich people will often do, especially famous rich people, is that they basically have a kid and then they don't raise them, but they like keep them in the public eye with them. And then if they turn out right, then they take credit for it. Mia Farrow. The lady who was the main character in Rosemary's Baby. You ever see that one?
Nope.
Okay, that's fine. But anyway, so she wished her adopted daughter like a happy birthday. This is years ago. But she took a screen cap, and so people saw her search for how she got that picture. It wasn't a picture of her own daughter. She typed into Google Mia Farrow's black child and then took a screen cap and said, "Happy birthday, my beautiful daughter," or whatever. And it was like, that's exactly how I feel about this now. It's just Lord Byron. Like, look, if she grows up all right, I'm taking credit for it, but I don't want to see it. You know,
look, this is gonna help me get bitches.
Yeah.
Like,
will it?
And by
Being
bitches,
a single father?
I mean people's wives.
Well, okay, fair. Yeah. Ooh, I hear that you like to take care of children. I'm a big man-child myself. But as much as Percy hated...
Oh, if only it worked that way.
As much as Percy hated that Allegra was being overseen by the Catholic Church, he had to admit that she seemed genuinely fucking happy. He said, quote, "The idea of bringing up so sweet a creature in the midst of such trash till 16. I was like, bro, you're not doing any better. But really, in all this time, it wasn't Claire or Byron that were keeping tabs on Allegra. It was Percy Shelley. He brought her toys and played with her and her friends, and the nuns knew the dude was weird about being an atheist, so they actually stayed out of his way to let him play with the other kids. Like, they would just, whenever he showed up, they're like, all right, everyone just keep a distance. Don't look at him. Just let him fucking play.
Don't talk to the dude.
Yeah, pretty much. But when Shelley asked about what Allegra might want him to bring on his next visit, she said she wanted him to bring back her mom and dad. And when he said, "Oh, don't worry, darling, your mommy Claire's doing just great," she was like, who the fuck is Claire? Allegra Byron had no memory of her own mother. She thought her parents were Lord Byron and the Contessa Guiccioli. It's no surprise then that in March of 1822, after Percy had relayed this story to Claire, that she staged a kidnapping to get her daughter out of the convent.
What do you mean that kid I've never fucking met or tried to reach out to one time doesn't know my name? What the fuck? Like,
yeah, not like with grappling hooks and shit.
No, you put my name on that trauma.
Her plan was actually quite simple. All she wanted was for Percy Shelley to forge a letter pretending to be Lord Byron to get the kid out, but Percy refused. Now, believe it or not, as misguided and uncaring as Lord Byron was towards his own daughter, he actually put her in the Capuchin convent of St. Giovanni for a reason. He wanted a guarantee that Claire Clairmont wouldn't see Allegra, thus rubbing off her quote-unquote loose morals onto her daughter. And as much as Claire thought of Italian women the same way, Lord Byron thought the opposite. And he figured that since Allegra would be branded a wedlock baby anyway, her growing up in an Italian convent and receiving a good education from the nuns would at least make her suitable for a marriage to someone of some nobility later on. He also paid double her fees just to make sure Allegra got treated with some favoritism by the nuns, which is probably why they left her alone whenever that weird Percy kid trounced through the doors. Well, in perhaps one of the last letters that little Allegra would ever send to her father, she wrote him, quote, "My dear papa, it being fair time, I should like so much a visit from my papa, as I have many wishes to satisfy. Won't you come to please your Allegrina, who loves you so?" One of the nuns...
No!
Oh, you won't be surprised at the answer. One of the nuns included their own letter alongside Allegra's, saying that she's heard that Lord Byron was moving to Pisa, and won't he please consider seeing his daughter before he leaves, since he's never seen her once in the year that she's been there. But Lord Byron refused. Didn't even bother sending a letter back. Just wrote on the back of his own daughter's letter saying, quote, "Sincere enough, but not very flattering."
Jesus fuck. He sent that back?
No. But it's like, why did you have to make that note for
Why did you
historians to
like-
to just be like, oh yeah, no, he's a douche. Almost forgot.
Just like reads it, puts it down, walks away like, no, I people need to know.
He actually made it a point not to go because he felt that Allegra was saying that she deserved to see him, which kind of pissed him off. Yeah. Yeah, you're her dad. Yeah, maybe you should.
Jesus.
Maybe she did deserve it.
Fuck, dude. God damn, dude.
It's all about terrible people. Oh, let me check. Oh, yeah, we're good. Well,
I don't know, dude. At least she's not getting like thrown around from family to family anymore.
I know this is honestly the best she's had it. And she's not going to be here much longer. Well, just 7 months later, on April 13th, 1822, the 5-year-old Allegra Byron would develop a fever. It was bad enough that the nuns immediately told Lord Byron, probably hinting that he should, maybe see his kid before she passes, but Lord Byron instead sent a letter telling them to do whatever was necessary. Just a week later, on April 20th, she was gone.
No, dude, we are, and we're telling you that it's not fucking cutting it, so you should probably get down here.
No, do more, though.
Holy dude.
Some figured it to be typhus, but we'll never really know for sure.
Dude, that's the worst thing he's done so far.
I don't know.
Like,
I really have a hard time. I want to do a Twitch stream of like S through F of like
getting a kid back, bouncing it around through a bunch of families, and then putting it into a school.
His mistreatment of Allegra at all is just it's
dude.
Like
that. Oh, buddy.
The short biography of Allegra Byron.
This kid just dies with no family around her from a fever in a school somewhere.
Yeah, in a school. Like that's the worst bit too,
dude.
You're in a school.
No one she loves around.
Yep.
Even if they don't love her back, like just like fucking
doesn't know her own mom.
Like
god damn,
dude.
Well, getting Allegra buried itself was a messy business. It's something that I feel should really be taken up by both parents.
This is such just like, oh my god.
But of course, Claire and Byron didn't want to talk to one another, so poor Percy had to mediate the entire ordeal. Although Claire would blame Lord Byron for her daughter's death, even going so far as to say he murdered her, she couldn't bring herself to see her child dead and left the burial up to him.
This is just such like man-child behavior. Also,
from everyone all around.
On the topic,
really.
Are the lightsabers charged?
Oh, the first one is.
Okay, we'll switch it over.
Yeah, no, you're right. So Byron sent Allegra's body back to England to be buried in the St. Mary churchyard in the suburb of Harrow, where Byron went to school. So no attachment whatsoever to anything in his daughter's life, but at least he can see her grave when he's visiting old college friends. Byron even wanted to inscribe on her tombstone the Bible verse, "I shall go to her, but she shall not return to me." Yeah, dickhead, because of you. You did that. However, due to Byron's reputation, the vicar of St. Mary did not allow a service to be held for Allegra, or for her to even be graced with a headstone. Instead, a service was held outside the church and Allegra was buried in an unmarked grave. It wasn't until 1980 that the Byron Society were granted permission to erect a small sign next to the churchyard doors saying that Allegra Byron is buried somewhere around here.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah. Well, that's it for her. Anyway, moving on. Now, I look, I don't want us to be too hard on old Lordy B. The dude was filled with regret. He wrote to a friend, quote, "While she lived, her existence never seemed necessary to my happiness, but no sooner did I lose her than it appeared to me I could not live without her." He has another daughter, I'd like to remind you. She'd be about 6 at this time.
Does he have any contact with her?
No.
Okay, buddy.
So anyway, as much as Allegra's passing didn't really seem to affect Lord Byron, Claire at least tried her best to move on. But off on the sidelines, Percy Shelley was fucking haunted by all of this. I don't know if you remember, but Percy was regarded as Mad Shelley because he would have frequent hallucinations in the middle of the day. Well, in one of them, he saw Allegra rising from the sea, clapping her hands and beckoning Percy to join her. That's a tough one to...
Like a seal?
No, Caleb, I don't think it was funny.
Oh. That doesn't sound funny at all. Sounds even more confusing and scary to see during the daytime.
Oh my gosh, she raced through the sea and she had a beach ball on her nose. Of course, 2 months later, on July 1st, 1822, Percy Shelley would take his boat from Lerici to Livorno, a distance of about 50 miles, to meet with Lord Byron and publisher Leigh Hunt to work on a new magazine called The Liberal, which would allow them to publish whatever they wanted without fear of repercussions. And Percy would do it all on his new boat, the Don Juan, named after Byron's latest success. Well, as you already know, Shelley sailed in the direction of home a week later on July 8th, and his body was discovered about halfway back to Lerici on the shores of Via Reggio 10 days later. Allegra is getting her revenge. Percy's body was buried in the sand for a month, where on August 16th, 1822, his remains were burned on the beach during a ceremony. His friends and family were in attendance, but Lord Byron left early before any ceremonies really began. That still gets me.
Dude, he's gonna get killed. Dude, somebody's gonna fucking...
Why are you leaving? I thought it was a buffet.
Dude, there's not gonna be natural cause death here. Sooner or later, somebody's gonna be like, over the line. Over the line. Nope.
Fucking crossed it, bud. I'm sorry.
Like, oh, shit, there it is. I didn't think I was capable of doing this, but here we are. Like, shit. Like,
that same year, in 1822, Byron's mother-in-law, Judith Noel, passed away. In accordance to her will, half her estate could only be inherited by someone with the, quote, surname of Noel before all titles and honor. This meant that the name Noel didn't have to be Lord Byron's new last name, just that it had to come before all his other titles. So Lord Byron, like his father before him, changed his name to gain a fat fucking inheritance. He'd go by George Gordon Noel Byron, 6th Baron Byron, most of the time, but where he placed the Noel in his name would frequently change. Sometimes he'd go by George Noel Gordon Byron, and sometimes he'd walk around just saying Noel was his first name. Some speculate he'd do this so that he'd have the initials NB, just like his hero Napoleon Bonaparte. So it's 1823, and Byron still has a fetish for the Mediterranean, specifically Greece. You can actually see his name carved into a column at the Temple of Poseidon to this day, which is kind of neat. And Byron is making lots of friends with Grecians who know he's a dude with lots of influence, so they ask him to support their fight for independence against the Ottoman Empire. Just like, raise awareness and whatnot. But instead, Lord Byron says he's going to do them one better. He's going to physically fight.
How old is he at this point?
He's still in his 20s.
Okay, yeah, but he doesn't have...
I think he's like 25, 26.
Yeah, that's... Oof. Okay, yeah, what happens? Let's go. Does he get the shit kicked out of him? Is this what happens?
Honestly, in the last few years, he's been writing more parts to the epic that is Don Juan and little else. So dude's, he's just fucking bored. And he decides he's going to join the revolution alongside Teresa's little brother, Pietro, who for some reason also came along. Also his servant, William Fletcher, who had just gotten married, but hey, duty calls. Yet when Byron shows up in Greece...
Oh, he allowed his manservant to get married?
Right? What an honor.
He should have just been...
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's like, sir, I just got married. And he's like, I need crackers. They call them naan over there, sir. Let's go.
As a part of your fucking contract that you signed, you will serve me and only me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your wife can... she's looking a little... Oh, no, she's ugly. Yeah,
fuck
no,
it,
let's
she can come to the front lines if she wants. Like...
Yet when Byron shows up in Greece, he finds that there's more than one group wanting to liberate their country. They're all made up of Grecians, yes, but they're all different factions wanting to instill their own vision upon what a liberated Greece might look like. And because Lord Byron wasn't sure whose demands to give into, he basically gave in to all of them. I was just funding a war. Oh boy, he's like the Bushes. Within a couple months, Byron had spent around £4,000 to refit a single navy. This might make the guy seem super noble, but I actually think he was just really fucking scared. Like, you're writing that check, right? As we speak. But this kind of shit was what Byron lived for. He'd been toying with the idea of revolution for a while, especially with his 1819 poem Mazeppa, about a man who, in real life, was a military leader in Ukraine, but in Byron's made-up story, was punished for flirting with a man's wife by being tied to the back of a horse and left to starve. His poem was such a hit that men tied to horseback was a popular subject for painting for like the next 50 years. Byron knew he was an influential guy, as much as he was reviled by everyone in high society, but it's honestly hard to explain just how on top of the world this guy was at this point. Yet while he was in Greece, Byron found himself quickly climbing the ranks within the Greek revolutionaries. Not from some great military intellect, it was because he had a shitload of money. In fact, At the height of his military power, Lord Byron held a company of 200 men, which was designated Byron's Brigade. He was in command of people's lives, Caleb.
With his fucked up foot and everything? Just
Yeah.
they let him in? That's weird.
But their battles usually consisted of them riding out to some Ottoman outpost and Lord Byron writing a check for them to leave.
Works every time.
Yeah, literally, that was his entire battle experience. Though there was this one time that Byron had bribed a couple high-ranking Albanian officers to turn over their commander to the Byron Brigade. And when the commander found out about their plot, he very publicly executed the officers, and Byron was like, okay, never mind, and they rode away. So they never actually fought in any battles.
It's like, oh, well, this one wasn't a success. Like,
but Byron's little adventure...
hell yeah to the guys that were like, fuck your money, you piece of shit, and just like, hey, check this out. Like, fucking insult me. Like,
Byron's little adventure being a revolutionary was expensive. He was found to be selling whatever properties he still had throughout Europe just to cover the rising costs of war. Not only that, but Contessa Guiccioli's brother Pietro kept fucking up in more and more expensive ways. He was basically working as Byron's assistant while he was in Greece, and his only duty was to, like, order supplies, but he'd accidentally add an extra 0 to things, so they'd get, like, 10 times the amount of shit they initially wanted, which always ended up being a very expensive mistake. And no matter what, as much as Byron tried to use his money to unite all these differing factions in the movement, he found himself unable to help them get along. He just thought he'd be able to, like, white savior his way through this. Well, he knew he needed to eventually side with only one leader, and in time, that man would be Prince Alexandros Mavrocordatos. Believe it or not, we've actually talked about this guy once before. You see, for all the free love that Percy Shelley was throwing out, his wife Mary decided that she'd finally try the moves on their dinner guest, Prince Alexandros herself. So while they're getting a little closer to each other on the couch at her place in Pisa, Mary's telling him how he's a big, strong man, and he's so brave to be a part of the movement that just kicked off in Greece. And Alexandros is just like, you know me, sorry, what? And she's like, you know, the revolution? Didn't you read the paper? It started like a couple days ago. And the poor guy had no idea. Ran his ass to Greece.
the hootie what now? Please excuse me. I do not have time to be horny.
My dick is ready for war.
Oh, this is time for the other man thing. Shit. Like, fuck. Like, God damn it.
So anyway, for whatever reason, Lord Byron attached himself to this guy in particular more than any other leader. And Alexandros decides that it's time for Lord Byron to get off his ass and command an army for real. The plan? To attack the fortress of Lepanto. The last time a war had been fought there was about 250 years prior, where Don Quixote author Miguel de Cervantes had received 2 shots to the chest and survived. But Byron didn't seem to think he'd get off so easy. For the next several days, he nervously went over every strategy they had to offer. For the first time, he was actually doing his best to take shit seriously. He helped prepare the artillery, looked over command regiments, and prepped the boats for war. But on February 15th, 1824, Lord Byron fell ill. The attack on Lepanto was off.
Did he? Okay, he called in sick to battle.
Cervantes did the same thing, actually. They still made him go.
Actually, I'm not feeling too good. Like,
To help him recover, the doctors gave him a rigorous trial of bloodletting. And slowly, he started to make a recovery, before catching a cold in April, where the doctors resumed their bloodletting. In his weakened state...
I'm feeling better. Oh, I don't want to do that, though, fuck.
The 36-year-old Lord Byron would catch a fever and die on April 19th, 1824, just a day shy of his daughter Allegra's 2nd anniversary of her death. Byron had made a call for both the Lady Byron and his daughter Ada shortly before he'd passed, but obviously they weren't able to get there so quickly.
Good, he didn't deserve it.
No, honestly, yeah. It's kind of funny, though. After he died, a friend of his snuck into the tent to see his clubfoot because the dude was hella self-conscious about it, so he was never allowed to see it.
Ooh. Oh man, let me see the foot. I want to see the foot. What?
You just lift it up, you see the foot, you put the blanket back down, his eyes are like open and staring. Within Lord Byron's will were quite a number of boys that he was hoping to send money to, including a 15-year-old he'd just met during that same trip to Greece. And whereas we've talked about people in the past like Emily Dickinson or Willa Cather who were basically not allowed to be gay in their own times, no one back then could deny the absolute amount of pussy Lord Byron was getting, as well as his appetite for men. There are still some scholars out there that like to act like it'd be rewriting history to say Lord Byron was bisexual.
No, it's not. You just didn't write the history correctly in the first place, motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
no, the dude loved both. Like, everyone closest to him knew it, you know?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was even an anonymous poem that was released after Byron's death called Don Leon, which talks about Lord Byron in a way that makes it seem like it was written by someone within his own social group. The poem calls for an end to criminalizing homosexuality, which wouldn't become legal in England until 1967. And dude, let me tell you, there were some intellectuals in Europe who seemed to only care about Greek independence because that was like where all the classic poems came from and shit. But when Lord Byron passed away, it was a huge fucking deal. This was like when Michael Jackson died. Do you remember that? People lost their fucking minds. And when people heard that Lord Byron died fighting for Greek independence, there was no stopping their fight against the Ottomans. The money started pouring in for support of their revolutionaries. Paintings of Lord Byron's heroic final journey came out in droves, and poems lamenting the loss of our great hero were published over and over again. Again, he didn't do anything. And everyone who ever even knew Byron decided they were going to write a book about their relationship with him. Teresa's fuck-up brother Pietro even published a book the next year called A Narrative of Lord Byron's Last Journey to Greece, which released to great success. Byron's fucking accountant wrote a book about him. Hell, the name Byron is a somewhat common name in Greece today, and there's even a town named after him there as well. But Byron's hero status, honestly, came as quite of a shock to the Grecians. They just knew him as some guy that, like, turned up whenever it was time to pay the tab. Was Lord Byron really as great as everyone in Western Europe said he was? Well, they weren't about to send his ass back to England just to find out later that they should have kept a piece of him. So according to some sources, they did. Cut out his fucking heart and supposedly remains on the inside of a memorial built for him in the town of Missolonghi. But that's if that's even true.
Sounds reasonable.
I'd do it.
Fuck.
Cut out the heart of my bartender if they pass, you know? The fuck? Yeah. This is going on the Christmas tree. So whatever was left of him, Lord Byron's body was embalmed and sent back to England, where the people demanded he be laid to rest in the famous Poets' Corner of Westminster Abbey, where Britain's finest and certainly not problematic authors such as Dickens, Kipling, and Chaucer are today laid to rest. However, due to his quote-unquote questionable morality, the Abbey refused Byron's remains. And while at the time of his death, Lord Byron had wished to be buried alongside Botswain, his dog that died back in 1808 and was buried on the grounds of Newstead Abbey, he is now laid to rest at the Church of St. Mary Magdalene in Nottinghamshire. Laid over the top of his grave is a large marble slab, provided by the King of Greece in 1881. But Westminster Abbey did eventually relent their decision, and I think there's like a small memorial to him in the Poets' Corner now. So while Byron was alive, he was actually working on an autobiography, which took him 3 years to complete. Before his death, he gave the completed manuscript to a group of friends, among which was his publisher, John Murray. Byron told them that these pages were not, quote, for publication during my life, but when I am cold, you may do what you please. So this group of friends passed around the different sections of Byron's memoirs that they had in the months leading up to his death, and they each came to an agreement when he died. Literally minutes after they'd gotten word of Lord Byron's death, they came together and burned the whole fucking thing. Now, the things we know for certain about Lord Byron are already pretty bad, but whatever was in this autobiography was so wretched that even the greedy publisher John Murray decided to torch the book. It's speculated that it's because Lord Byron was very open about his homosexual experiences, but we really have no idea for sure if that was the only thing.
Just getting real greasy with it. Like,
Yeah.
So it kind of sounds like there may have been, I mean, it might have just been the gay thing.
It coulda.
Like, but there's, I don't know.
If
like,
people knew he was fucking his sister and his friends closest to him knew that he was like a bit bisexual, then it's like...
Let's hope that the disgust was from the incest and not the homosexuality.
If it's one of those two, it's the homosexuality.
God
100%. You
like,
know it
God,
is. Like, I know.
like,
I know.
Fucking come on, man.
They're like, oh, fuck the sister. I'm spanking it to this later.
You know,
man, ugh! Like,
let's say it's like, that's probably why we haven't brought up, aside from the relationship with Percy Shelley, like any homosexual acts this guy has done, is probably because the reason they took that out was because of the gay shit. We still know about him fucking his sisters and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It has to be. That, oh man, that sucks though. Like, because it's like if Michael Jackson was super honest about himself and like wrote an autobiography before he died, they would clamor for that. Everybody would want to know.
Like, well, fucking like we've got record of Casanova being a fucking.
He thought it was funny.
Just horrific monster.
Yeah, because he thought it was funny.
You know what I mean? But
yeah,
but no gay shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but then, like that's, but you know what I mean? Like, that's the line for some reason. Like, okay.
Since her latest diss to Lord Byron in 1822, Lady Caroline had written 3 other books: Graham Hamilton in 1822, Ada Reese in 1823, and Penruddock, also in 1823. Although none of them seemingly have anything to do with Lord Byron, what's funny is that her inspiration for writing is still very clearly Lord Byron. Like, she couldn't deny how good the guy was, and seemingly ended up admiring him for his prose, regardless of how she thought about him personally. And although Ada Reese was Lady Caroline's most successful book, it was still deemed as just okay. Still, when Lady Caroline heard the news of Lord Byron's death, she supposedly had a meltdown in the middle of the street. Her continued use of opium and alcohol had her pass away January 25th, 1828, at the age of 42. When Byron died, he left his faithful manservant William Fletcher with nothing. The general consensus is not that Lord Byron was that much of a dick, and he probably would have left Fletcher a sizable sum had he lived long enough to write it down. But then again, why didn't he do it literally any other time before his death?
You're going to fucking war.
Yeah.
Write it down, my man. Like, fuck. Like,
so anyway, Fletcher would later try starting a macaroni manufacturing business in England because there was a ban on imported Italian noodles.
That's the most side fucking character shit. Like,
but when the ban was finally lifted, the company went bankrupt.
Motherfucker, leave your Smithers something, dude. Like, fuck's sake. Like,
Fletcher had been approached to help write a biography of his old master, but the project never came to fruition.
Well, he never taught me how to read, so.
He died in 1839 at the age of 64. For the rest of her life after their separation, Lady Byron was sadly still obsessed with her former husband. She kept all his letters, even made copies of her own, though it's speculated she only did this so she'd have evidence of Byron's character, in case he all of a sudden changed his mind and wanted custody of their daughter Ada. Lady Byron soon found herself afraid that Ada had the same mental illnesses she believed her husband had. So she would shut up Ada in studies and religion to cure her of a problem that didn't exist. For the rest of her life, Lady Byron took part in social causes, even being one of the only women to attend the 1840 World Anti-Slavery Convention, right alongside Jane Austen's brother Henry. The Lady Byron died from breast cancer on May 16th, 1860, just a day before her 68th birthday. In her final years, she told her story to Harriet Beecher Stowe, author of Uncle Tom's Cabin, who released Lady Byron's biography 9 years later in 1869. This book was actually the first mention of Lord Byron and his sister Augusta's incestuous relationship, and at first, everyone was pissed about it. Like, Oh, okay. The lady who likes black people is going to talk shit about our poetic hero. But since then, more evidence has come to light, and it's pretty well established that, yeah, they fucked. We know. Contessa Teresa Guiccioli eventually left her actual husband after the death of Lord Byron, and her new husband loved to introduce her as someone who used to fuck the guy that wrote Don Juan.
Yeah, I mean, there's no women, or very few women are introduced in relation to this man that they're not going to get noted unless they had sex with him.
Yeah.
Except for except for Mary Shelley.
Well, he was, yeah, like, I mean, he was fucking, well, and he didn't even fuck Mary Shelley, but it's like,
I said except for.
Well, okay, yeah, but he, like, all that he was doing was banging people that were from old money. They didn't do anything, you know? That was it. They had no real social cause or anything like that, so it's like, what do? I whip my slaves all day. And I fucked the guy that wrote Don Juan. Oh, cool!
Like, but yeah, no women get mentioned by this man unless he has sex with them.
Yeah, that is true.
Like, he doesn't, they're not worth cataloging. They're not there. Like, unless like,
you're not even there.
like, you know, like.
But believe it or not, Teresa was held in high regard due to that fact. Was a very popular socialite all the way until her death at age 73 in 1873. She was so well known in the higher echelons of society that author Alexandre Dumas used her as an influence for his character known as the Contessa G in his story The Count of Monte Cristo. In regards to Byron's maybe child between himself and his sister Augusta, Elizabeth Medora Lee largely got around life claiming to be the product of Lord Byron, whether it was thought through incest or not, just hoping to score a quick buck with a story, but ended up dying from smallpox and poverty at the age of 35 in 1849. But perhaps the greatest success to the Byron name actually came from his only living legitimate child, Augusta Ada Byron, who went by her middle name Ada. Well, Ada's life with the Lady Byron was kind of no better than had she been left with her dad. Her mom was never around, and instead had Ada watched over by a gaggle of old women that Ada called the Furies. And because Ada was so often mistreated,
What's that from again?
The Furies?
Yeah.
I mean, are you thinking of like Fury Road or something?
Isn't that some Greek thing?
It is, yeah. They're those harpies.
Oh, yeah,
kind of things.
yeah.
Yeah. And because Ada was so often mistreated, she constantly ran away. Like when she tried to elope with a teacher of hers in 1833 at the age of 17.
Greasy.
Yeah, I tried to look up how old this dude was. Honestly, he was probably around the same age, but it's still it's still weird.
Yeah, whatever.
So every time she was caught, Lady Byron would be like, oh God, she's just like her father, and lock her up even more securely than before. Well, just a couple of years later, in 1835, Ada would marry William Noel King, 1st Earl of Lovelace, from which Ada would forever be known as Ada Lovelace. Now, I know this means nothing to you, but I had no idea Ada Lovelace was related to Lord Byron at all, much less his own fucking daughter.
Who the fuck's Ada Lovelace?
Ada Lovelace is known as the mother of computer science. She invented the first algorithm for a working computer before we even had fucking electricity. I mean, everything we have is thanks to a formula she produced. But in 1852, she would pass away from cancer, aged 36, just like her dad. While she herself had kids, and there are direct descendants of Lord Byron today, upon his death, the title of Baron Byron got passed down to a cousin, where they've had a long line of politicians, and we're currently on the 13th Baron Byron to this day, born in 1950 and still kicking. Once he's dead, the next one to receive the title will be some guy that was born as recently as 1990. Now look, Lord Byron's story may be fraught with the man being a fucking whirlwind of destruction, but his poetry is still highly regarded today.
Not destruction, just like laziness, neglect, and horniness.
Destruction. When I looked up recent news articles about him, just to see if something new and terrible had come to light, I found nothing but praise after praise being showered on the guy. He's given the same pass as people like Casanova. But I'll tell you why that is. The guy exuded rich guy energy, and people want to romanticize the idea of him as a poet, rather than him as anything else that he actually was. In 1813, he was found to be the first person to use the word intellectual as a noun. And ever since his death, people who can quote this monster have seen themselves as intellectuals too. My sources today: The Poetry of Lord Byron by Lord Byron, Arcturus Publishing Limited, 2020. Rabid by Bill Wasick and Monica Murphy, Viking Penguin, 2012. On the Trail of Lord Byron in Venice, VenitoInside.com, LordByron.org, FindAgrave.com. I use that one for Allegra Byron. Surprised I couldn't find her. And
FindAgrave.com.
Yeah, it's actually a very useful website. Yeah, it's actually really good for finding lineage.
Like, I think about it for a second, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That's the thing,
Wikipedia.
But I'm still surprised.
Yeah, it's like a Wikipedia just for grave markers. It's actually really helpful. I've used them quite a bit. So, it's taken us. God, did we start this in 2021?
2020.
Was it 2020?
I think 2020.
Oh, hang on, let me look at it real quick.
Yeah, we had to have started in 2020.
Really?
Yeah, pandemic kicked off in March of 2020, so it couldn't have been that long after that.
Let's go down to number 1. April 2021.
Oh, shit.
So,
right.
yeah.
So it took us a full year of suffering without an excuse to be able to see each other.
Before we were like,
until you had this master plan.
I'm ready to risk death for you, brother. Do you remember when we used to post up our we would be seated in the garage 12 feet away from each other, but the can of beers were 6 feet away in the middle? Do you remember that? Yeah. We would just chill 12 feet apart because we're not gay. Yeah, and we just stare out the garage. That was great.
That was a good one.
That's so stupid.
Just be like scampering in, like grabbing
So
a beer
dumb.
and running out. Like, I don't know, man. Look, we didn't know shit. We didn't know how bad it was. We didn't know what was going on. I just knew I was around like a fuck ton more people than you every day, so I should probably just scamper in and out real quick so I didn't kill your fat ass. Like,
yeah, I actually got to work from home. That was nice.
Fucking look at you. You can't even handle a flight of stairs. There's a fucking deadly virus going around. I don't want to give that to you. Like,
that's why I lived in a 1-floor house at the time. Well, anyway, so it took us 4 years, and I'm not going to put out a new like little update on this because we've put up updates multiple times. They're like, look, episodes are going to come when they're going to come. But I'm saying it this time. We have caught up to everything that I've ever written as far as scripts for the show go. We're out of scripts. Doesn't mean that it's ending. It just means that, honestly, it's probably going to take like a month in between.
Jordan,
probably
look, everybody, Jordan has run out of Wikipedia articles to read in front of us all. Mm-hmm. And then expect me to do something with in response. So it might be a minute. Our boy over here, I mean, he barely works. He has nothing but time.
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah,
apparently,
yeah.
But apparently, fucking, you know, it's just not happening currently. So I don't know. Y'all can email him. Y'all can talk to him and ask him about that. Because
I got nothing else going on. Someone please
there.
just watch me jerk it in the
camera. Oh my fucking God, I'm so glad we got to the end. Oh my fucking
What difference would it have made to you?
I live so far away.
No, we're not done. I mean, it's just so basically though, all I'm saying is like it takes more than a fucking hour and a half to like, you know, like when you're watching a movie. A book takes a while to read. I've read a lot of books, sure, but I've been also not focusing on one author at a time. I've been jumping around, so I've got a whole bunch of subjects that I like am either finished with or I have one more book to go. So I'm just kind of jumping around. I already have like half a script written up for the next guy, but
our boy is not locked in.
I'm not really locked in.
He's
actually
not locked in.
Mm-hmm. I'm not.
Not
either way,
currently, but eventually paying the fees for keeping this up on various platforms will eat away at Jordan, and we will be back.
Not unless I make less money, because right now I do not notice it.
But
that's a flex. So anyway.
Could you make less money?
Illegally? No.
like. But yeah,
we'll see you when you see.
God damn, dude.